Hello, and thank you for attending SAGE Alerts and Workflow video-based training. Please note that this is video-based training and content is for training purposes only and intended for new and existing SAGE Alerts and Workflow customers.
Hi, my name is Jane Nichols, and today we are going to talk about filters for query design within the Alerts and Automation solution. Click on the Filters tab. The most important part of the query design is the conditions that will cause the query to trigger an event. These conditions are called filters and subfilters. There are 4 general concepts of filter design. The first is what column values do you need to test? Second, what operator will a filter use, along with is or is not, such as equal to, greater than, less than, and so on. It can also check if a value has changed since the last time the solution checked it. Third, what will the column value be compared against? The solution can compare more than just a constant value, such as testing for a priority of high. It can test against another field, test a calculated field against a constant value or another calculated field. It can test a numeric field against a range, and much more. And finally, should a filter be parameter driven? Continue designing the query. Identify filters to narrow the data. In our example, we will use 3 filters. The first is order date will be equal to today. The second is order type equal to O. And the third is total dollars greater than or equal to X dollars, a parameter-driven filter. For the first filter, key in the field name or column as the solution refers it to, or use the scroll on the right. Since I am familiar with the database schema, I will go ahead and click into the search database columns, and I'm going to look for the order date field for our first column to filter on. Once I find it, I double click and it moves it to the columns selected for filtering area. To continue configuring this first filter, we go to the is or is not column. It defaults to is, and it can be changed by clicking on the drop-down arrow. For this filter, we are going to keep it as is. Next is the operator field, and again, it defaults to equal to and can be changed by using the drop-down arrow. We are going to keep the default as equal to. Next is the compare value field. In this case, we will test a date field against a date variable that is equal to today. Click into the field, hit backspace to remove the question mark. Click on the green box with the 3 white dots that says select a value. A filters window opens, and notice that a couple of the parameters from the first screen came over, is equal to, and we are looking for the variable to use in this calculation, which is today's date. Once you find it, double click and it puts it into the next box. Click OK, and it carries the parameter down to the compare value field. The type column contains the type of data the selected column contains. You can click on the drop-down arrow to change the type, but for this example, we are going to keep the default of date. The and or column has the ability to specify Boolean logic. This logic is sequential, which means the filter and or applies to the current filter in relation to the next filter. Grouping and or logic is supported. The default value is and. This can be changed by clicking on the drop-down arrow and selecting the or option. For this first filter, we will keep the default as and. The optional prompt is only used for parameter-driven filters. Since this is not a parameter-driven filter, We will leave the default and continue on with the second filter. The second filter we will create is order type equal to 0. Once again, I will click into the Select Database column and type in the name of the column. Once I find order type, I double-click and it moves it to the column selected for filtering. Just as we did with order date, I continue to configure this filter by going from column to column. I will keep it as is, equal to, and for the compare value, I will remove the question mark and type in an O for the order type I'm looking for. I will keep my default order type and the default of and or, and I'll keep the default for the optional prompt since this is not a parameter-driven filter. The last filter for this query is total dollars greater than or equal to X dollars, which is a parameter-driven filter. Click into the search database columns. I'm looking for total dollars. Once I find the column, I double-click and it moves to the column selected for filtering. For the is or is not, I will keep the default of is. But for the operator, I'm going to change the default of equal to the greater than or equal to option. Because this is a parameter-driven filter, we will keep the compare value as a question mark. We will keep the type as the default number and the and or as a default of and. In the optional prompt field, since it is a parameter-driven filter, we're going to click into the field, hit Control-A to select all the text, and we're going to key in the text that we want to appear when the event is being configured. In this example, we're going to use customer sales order total. These are the filters needed for our query, so we can then click on the green Update button. This concludes filters for query design for the Alerts and Automation solution.
Thank you for attending Sage Alerts and Workflow video-based training.